Hey guys, this is Vadim with MaxTech, and right here in front of me, I have the Magic keyboard case with the 2020 11-inch iPad Pro, and I have Logitech's Combo Touch keyboard case with the 10.2-inch 2019 budget iPad. And in this video, we're gonna be comparing basically everything between these two keyboard cases. We're talking the material, the keyboards, the trackpads, the extra features that they have, the premium feel, the price, everything between these two. So let's get right into it. Now, before we begin, I've gotta admit that I've been using the Logitech for around a week right now, and the Magic keyboard case over the weekend, and I've gotta say that I fell in love. I expected it to be pretty good, but once I started using the trackpad, the keyboard, everything together, it just totally blew me away. So let's get into it. So let's start with the materials of the cases. So with the Magic keyboard, you have this rubbery polyurethane kind of plastic finish. Now this feels pretty nice. The only drawback is over time it starts to get scratched up a little bit and smudged. But on the Logitech side, you have like this fabric texture and feel. Almost feels like jeans, but I think it's made out of like a plastic material too. So if you spill something on it, it seems to be like water resistant. Seems like it won't get stained very easily. So this actually does feel pretty nice. And what I really like about the Magic keyboard case is how just perfectly flush it is on both sides. It's just so slim and it just feels so premium how it just perfectly wraps it. It keeps it nice and thin. I know it's still pretty thick compared to the iPad Pro by itself, but if you compare it to this guy, this is a thick boy. Like, they went overboard on how thick they made this case, but to be honest, if you drop this thing, I don't think anything's gonna happen to the iPad. Like, it's so well protected compared to if you drop this on the side, there's a good chance you're gonna get a dent or a scratch in the iPad Pro itself. So that's one of the drawbacks. Now, my number one complaint about the Magic keyboard is how hard it is to open. Like, you can't do it with one hand at all. So you kind of have to like wedge your fingers in between it and then get it up like that. Or here's another way, you kind of lift it up on the hinge and you just drop the keyboard section down just like that. And then as you can see, you can easily adjust the angles, and with Face ID, there you go, you're in. It feels nice. Now with this guy, I guess you can also put it on the hinge, drop the keyboard portion, and you pull back this flap. That's adjustable. There you go. So if we're comparing the convenience of the stands, even though this one takes a little bit more effort to open up, I still prefer this because there's nothing sticking out and it just adjusts pretty well. Although the Logitech can go down a lot more like that, but in reality, I don't know who's gonna be using it like that. Honestly, this right here, even standing still, I can see the display just fine. The angle is just perfectly fine on this. But either way, you really can't go wrong if you're going with the Logitech. It's fine, it works, I still like it. Now, one of the really cool benefits with the Logitech is that you can actually lift it up, take the keyboard off, just set it down if you're watching a movie or something else. Now for the Apple Pencil solutions between these two. The Logitech has this little sleeve on top, which is really nice and convenient for the first generation of Apple Pencil. So there you go, it's not going anywhere, it's really sturdy inside there. But for the iPad Pro, you have the second generation Apple Pencil, so it uses the wireless charging and magnetic connect system like that. So downside is you could lose this much easier than you can with the 10.2-inch iPad with the original Apple Pencil. However, this is the really cool part. You just hold it down and pick it up with one hand just like that. You can take it vertically. If you have some vertical apps you want to use, just use it. Drawing, whatever you want to do, works perfectly fine. And then when you're done, just place it right back onto the stand. Now, one thing that I really like about the Magic keyboard case is how easy it is to fold it down and take it with you. So just grab one hand, just like that, fold it, and you got it. Just hold it by the hinge like that. You can just carry it like a book or whatever else, just like that. It's nice and slim, and it's actually not as heavy as people make it out to be. Now with this guy, what you're gonna do is you're gonna fold it down, put the flap down, and then you can just grab it like that. This is definitely a lot more thick. I don't know if you guys can see from there, but that is definitely a thick case. Now let's move on to comparing the keyboards on these cases. So with the Magic keyboard case, using it over the weekend, I can tell you that this is probably the best keys on any keyboard case that I've ever used. It's actually comparable to those MacBooks, which is really impressive for this really thin keyboard case. Now, the cool thing about having the smart connector on both of these is that it basically has a hardwired connection. So when you're typing, everything registered instantly. You don't have any lag like you might have with a Bluetooth keyboard where you're typing and it might show up just a split second afterwards and it just kind of ruins the experience. Not that bad, but still it's much better to have this instant key clicking and everything with that smart connector. Now, of course, you have the same thing on the Logitech keyboard case because it has a smart connector, so definitely really nice, really responsive on the keyboard. Now let's compare the sound of the keys, so listen to this. So basically on the Logitech, it's more of like a standard traditional keyboard where you actually have a really nice amount of travel, maybe around the same or slightly more travel than the Magic Keyboard case, but it does feel a little bit mushy. Whereas with this keyboard case on the Magic Keyboard, you get more of a clicky feel, more tactile, more feedback, I guess, on this keyboard. And it's really quite satisfying having that much key travel, but also having this clicky feel on these keys. So to be honest, if I was to choose one of these keyboards just for the keys themselves, I would choose the Magic Keyboard for sure. It is better than the Logitech. Now, of course, one of the perks that you get with the Logitech Combo Touch is the function keys at the top. So right here we have the escape key, which if you double click it, it opens up your app switcher. We have brightness controls. We have a keyboard little pop-up, which it'll pop up your keyboard. If you're typing, you have a spotlight search button. You have the backlighting, which I'll get into right after this, the keyboard backlighting. You have media keys and of course, a little lock button. I don't know who's gonna be using that often, but you have it there just in case. Now, for the backlighting on the Magic Keyboard, you actually don't have any of those function keys, so a lot of people complain about that. But if you guys can look from above, like you see my fingers are disappearing. Now imagine you had another row up top, you would be probably like hitting the bottom of the iPad Pro with your hands trying to reach out for that. So maybe that's one of the reasons why Apple didn't add it in. And if you look at the trackpad, it's already really, really slim. It is definitely not a big trackpad. Now, as far as backlighting, this is the really cool feature on the Magic Keyboard case. It actually takes the data from the ambient light sensor, the same sensor that makes the auto brightness of the display work. It actually takes that data and naturally when it gets darker in your room, when it gets towards the evening, the backlighting actually turns on automatically by itself. And I found over the weekend that it stays at the perfect level to where you would actually want it to be able to see the keys. So let me show you, for example, I'm gonna turn on my flashlight and put it up to there. So right now the keys are not working at all. And if I cover it, look at that. I don't know if you guys can tell from the top camera, but they just turned on. And now, put the flashlight, there you go, they just turned off. So it's actually really cool to see it working on the Magic Keyboard case. Now for the trackpads, I initially thought that the one on the Logitech was plastic, but it's not, it's glass. Just like the one on the Magic Keyboard case is glass as well, but there is a major difference between these two. The Logitech uses a diving board kind of mechanism for the trackpad, which means it's actually attached on the top. So if you're trying to click the top, you basically can't unless you're pushing as hard as you can, right? But near the bottom, it's incredibly easy to tap. And as you get closer to the top, like in the middle, it's already harder to click. Really easy on the bottom, but harder in the middle. And at the top, it becomes a lot more tough to click. Now, with the Magic Keyboard case, I don't know how Apple did this, maybe there's gonna be a teardown, but you get a perfectly even clicking feel all over. So that means if you're gonna be clicking on your trackpads, this is definitely the one you wanna go for because you get a really nice, easy clicking feel, even at the top, the corners, anywhere. Definitely 100% the better trackpad, and it feels really smooth as well. Now you don't necessarily have to click because if you go into the settings, into the trackpad settings, you can enable tap to click. Works perfectly fine as a click, and you can also enable secondary click, which is with 2 fingers. there you go, you have a right click. And probably the best thing about the trackpad support is having multi-touch gestures. Use 3 fingers to swipe left and right between apps. It works really well. Although, I don't know why, but the one on the Magic Keyboard case seems more responsive. It's like, it has better reliability. Like every time I do it, it works. Whereas here, look at that, it kind of skips a beat sometimes. It doesn't register. Now, if we talk about how premium each of these feel, to be completely honest, even though you're using this really nice Logitech Combo Touch keyboard case, it looks like a basic old regular keyboard case because you have the flap in the back. It just looks very standard. But with the Magic Keyboard case, it looks really modern. First of all, really modern, really premium because you see the outline of the edges of the iPad Pro. And for once, this floating design, which I think is completely original, totally unique, because if somebody sees this tablet floating, they know it's an iPad Pro. This just looks really professional, really sleek and modern. Now, before we get into the pricing and which keyboard case I would recommend for you to buy, there is one extra feature on the Magic Keyboard case. Oh, I forgot one thing. This is not gonna fall off. You can hold it by the iPad Pro, you can hold it by the keyboard case. The magnetic connection holding the iPad to the Magic Keyboard case is very, very strong. Now, this last feature is this USB-C port right here. This is the first keyboard case ever on any tablet where it comes with a built-in charging port on the case itself. So I noticed a couple of perks. First of all, you can plug in your charger, it charges it, and I actually tested it out and it seems to charge just as quickly as using the regular charger. I'm not sure how they're able to achieve it, but the perk is that you can charge it on the keyboard case, it works through the smart connector, and you actually have the original USB-C port on the iPad Pro available to hook up a storage device, flash drive, whatever. So that way you don't have to buy one of those little hubs where you plug it in, you have something sticking out the side. With the keyboard case, you don't have to get that. You plug it into the back, and there you go, you have that extra port. Now, the really cool thing that I noticed that nobody really talked about was having the charger plugged into the keyboard case back here. It stays out of the way. It's behind you, you barely even notice that it's plugged in, compared to having it plugged in right here up on the iPad Pro. It's just right there in front of you, it's sticking out. It's definitely a huge perk compared to the Logitech Combo Touch, which you don't get any of that on this keyboard case. Now for the pricing. $150 for the Logitech, $300 for the Magic Keyboard case for the 11-inch iPad Pro, doesn't matter if it's the 2018 or the 2020 model, $350 for the 12.9-inch. Now the way I see it is that the people who are going to be going for the budget iPad, they don't prioritize the quality of their tablets as much as somebody who wants to go for the iPad Pro. If you're buying the iPad Pro, you're buying it for a reason. You want the best tablet out there because it is really the best tablet you can get. You prioritize your tech. Now somebody going for the 10.2-inch, they're completely fine with a budget tablet with the A10 chip, the performance. That's all they want it for, and that's perfectly fine because I actually recommended this setup, the 10.2-inch iPad and this Combo Touch keyboard case for example, small business owners or students, because having the trackpad and the keyboard just completely changes this tablet and it turns it into a laptop replacement, so that's really nice. So if you go for this option, you're spending around $430 to $450 for this entire setup compared to around $1,100 plus for the Magic Keyboard case and the iPad Pro. So what I'm trying to say is the keyboard case that you buy just depends on which one you want to go for, the iPad Pro or the regular iPad. But to sum this whole video up, I just fell in love with the Magic Keyboard case. I've never just used an iPad like this and had so much functionality with this awesome trackpad, the best trackpad on any keyboard case, and the best keyboard, the keys themselves, on any keyboard case as well. Even though you don't have the function keys, it's actually really quick to change the settings, like the brightness. You just go up and 2 fingers, just like that, you adjust it, and then you just swipe down really, really quick. So there's no issue without those function keys. And just the overall feel that you get with this floating design, being able to lift it off in an instant, it's just so nice on the Magic Keyboard case, being able to take it with you just like that. This is definitely the more premium option. Even though it is expensive, I would recommend you guys try this out. And I think this is gonna be a total game changer for the iPad Pro. Going into the future, I think a lot of people are gonna be buying the Magic Keyboard case. This is just the ultimate keyboard case. Nothing can beat it, especially with that pass-through charging, the automatic keyboard backlighting. This is just the best Apple experience I've felt in a long time. So there you guys have it. That was the comparison between these two keyboard cases. If you're interested in buying one of these or buying the iPad Pro or the iPad, I'm gonna have some links to the best sales on these devices down in the description below. So thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already seen our video on the Magic Keyboard case, check it out right over there. It talks about Apple's master plan for the iPad Pro. So thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Tap like down below and click the circle above to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.